Okay, we are live. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening for a few minutes, and we will get started here. Welcome to everybody on Facebook that will be joining us. We are monitoring that as well. One of the things I would like to invite all of you, if you have questions or if you have thoughts, go ahead and put it. If you're live on Zoom with us, you can put that in the chat line, and we will hopefully be monitoring that. And then
I'll be monitoring.
we will also be monitoring the um, uh, any comments that you have on Facebook as you're watching there. If you have any questions at the end, we'll be happy to answer questions for you as well. So, with that, uh, Sheral, I am so happy you're here with me doing this. So, let's kick it off and tell everybody who you are.
For those that don't know me, my name is Sheral Devon, and I am the owner and founder of Speaking with Cher. I'm a communication strategist connecting your voice and your message with your ideal audience for greater impact and profit. I am a 3-time #1 rated morning show radio host. I have 2 podcasts, been featured in magazines, have done commercials nationwide that you may or may not have heard. I am a #1 best-selling author and a media trainer. And there's a couple of things I may have done here and there. And I am Gary's partner in crime, going ahead and working with various. Yeah, I see Doc laughing about that. Yeah, I'm his partner in crime, the one that devils him just a little bit. But
Yes.
we are very much on the same page and dedicated to helping others find their voice.
So, and I'm Gary Barnes, Gary Barnes International. I consider myself the kid next door, but some of the things that I started out in my early career was theology and psychology. So I was arguing with myself from a very early age, but it put me in the pulpit. So it was one of those interesting things that when I got done with any sermon, the parishioners at the door would always say, "Oh, what a good talk, Pastor." Nobody was being truthful. And so, but that was my early days. And I have been building businesses for, let's say, over 30 years. I'm not going to say the real number, but over 30 years. And, it's been interesting because I have been using speaking my entire career. It's been one of the best things that I have ever done in my financial planning practice and my real estate career. And then in my coaching and my professional life as a speaker. I have given over 1,000 talks. I have the experience of doing all the major networks. I did PBS, and what was more humbling than that, 5 years later, after my ninth book came out, they asked me back to the same show. So that was really a neat confirmation that they at least liked me just a little bit. I've been on TEDx, and really, it's about a passion of mine is helping people to really have impact and to be seen. And so that's where my dedication within the confines of what Sheral and I have put together. Because what we have seen also in the industry is a lot of promises made in programs and really not the follow through, not the ability to go out and actually use that information. And very few of them ever give you practical experience. And so we are here to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what we are doing and how we're launching speakers in their speaking career. And also, not just in the ability to speak, but in the business of speaking. And that is something that is really important because most speakers, as they start out, they're willing to speak for food type thing. They're willing to fly to the ends of the earth, and that's okay. But the thing is that that's not sustainable. That is not going to allow you to have a career in the speaking business. And what we want is to have your voice released to the universe permanently, not just be a flash in the pan, not have that lucky engagement that has you feeling really good, maybe pampered a little bit, but to truly know why you're doing what you're doing and how to do it. So one of the things that we do want to entice all of you to stay to the end, we're going to really plan on being here just about an hour. So we're not going to be here
Yeah.
for a long, long time, but we do have a free gift for everyone at the end. And, so
We're
uh,
also going to be giving away the 3 secrets.
the 3 secrets for success.
Mhm.
So, so Sheral, why don't you go into, we like to make a bold promise right at the beginning. So why don't you share that with everyone?
What we want to do and what we do with everyone that we work with is we teach you how to become the perfect solution to your meeting planners and media hosts by showing you how to become a people magnet within 20 to 90 minutes of connecting with your audience. That's it. 20 to 90 minutes. That's all it takes to become that sort of a people magnet that makes people, event planners and media hosts such as myself, want you to be part of their world. That's what we do. And that's what we'll teach you.
And that's really important because you're going to have opportunities sometimes. I remember one of my opportunities was to be on Good Morning Baltimore. I did a red eye to get back to the station, and I had 3.5 minutes to be on camera. And it's a matter of how do I make a connection in just 3.5 minutes, where 2 of those minutes probably were taken up by the interviewer with who she is, the station, and the actual question. And so, how to have that impact, whether you have a short period of time, a long period of time, if you're going to put on, some of you may even have an interest in putting on your own events. So, really, how to design what it is that you want to deliver to the public, to your perfect client. And then more importantly, also, how do they want it? It's sometimes we think, well, we're going to build it and then give it to them. But if we don't ask how they want it, then there is no connection. And so some of the things that we have found too is that there is a resistance for people to get onto stages. They're thinking that they have to be perfection, that the perfection has to be there. As you can tell, I messed up just
You
on that
speak for
word
a living.
perfection.
That's a good
Kind of
thing,
got
huh?
stuck in my throat. But the thing is that, opportunities are lost. If you have been given the inspiration to be on any type of stage, whether it be one to small group, maybe it's a training, a breakout session, a main stage in the media, whatever it might be. But if you have had that inspiration, our opinion is you are ready. Now you're going to get better. You're going to get
Mhm.
fine tuned in what you do. But the thing is that because you have been given that inspiration, that thought of engagement, you are ready. You have something to share. And when we have that as an overriding thought, now we can step into that that opportunity. And someone that we have on the line tonight is we asked one of our alumni to come on and share just a little bit. You know, where I consider it, opportunities are seldom convenient. We always are. I mean, I ask people, how many of audiences, how many of you are married? And people raise their hand, and I say, were you ready to be married before you were married? We find out afterwards, probably not as much as we thought. Or how many of you have children? Were you ready to be a parent?
Yeah.
It's actually getting into the arena. So Julie Jones is with us. She is in Dallas. And Julie, you can unmute. And would you share with us about, you know, what it was that really told you that you were wanting to step into the arena and what you have been doing?
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. It's great. I feel like I've come home. Thank you. Hello. I went to speaker boot camp. Was it a year ago? I can't believe. I have a business where I work with mostly young professionals and teaching soft skills and how to build relationships. And I was on the speaking circuit here locally in Dallas doing lunch and learns or chamber lunches or talks. And I was getting a lot of free talks, but I wasn't getting any business. I was just talking. And so I was very busy, but I was not productive. And so going to the speaker boot camp really gave me focus on restructuring the way that I present and also giving me a little bit more of that stage presence. I was very shy and not confident. Working with Gary and Sheral, just gave me that confidence boost to get out there, restructure my talk so that I can now use free talks as a way to generate interest in me, become that magnet, Sheral, that you were talking about, where people want to know more about me and what do I do? And do I coach? And how do they be a part of what I'm doing? And the proof in the pudding, and I don't think Sheral and Gary, you don't know this, but I was invited to speak at a networking event. And I was speaking on networking and was just sharing who I am. And I just let loose. You'll be proud of me. Let loose and was just me. And at the end, a lady came up to me and said, "Do you have any coaching programs? Because I want in anything that you do." And so that was like, yes. So it is a journey. It is, you have to start somewhere. And so I started as a teacher teaching middle school students. And so that was my first audience. And now I speak on stages. My last stage was to deliver a keynote for the closing. I closed out a national sales conference here in the Dallas area. So this is a great place to be. It is a way for you to, even if you just go to a networking event and you have to stand up and give a 30-second commercial, that's a stage. And so we are always on. And so this is a great place to learn how to get out of yourself, get out of your own way, and get your message out there.
That is so true, Julie. One of the things that I realized you said to have more confidence. I hear people say, once I have confidence, then I will get onto stage. And, there is a saying, actually, we looked it up, Julie, the other day. Zig Ziglar had a saying, you don't have to be good to get started, but you have to
You
get
have to get
started to
started
become
to be
good.
good.
And
Yes.
when we
Yes.
realize that, and how many of you have heard really poor speakers out there that are being paid? I mean, Doc has told me he has been at conferences and his wife, and he says I ruined him because he's now looking at other speakers on stages and
Right.
they're doing things that are not connecting and not doing
Right.
some things that,
Mhm.
he would and does now in his talks. So
Yeah.
part of it is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable because the first time you do something as get out there. In fact, there was a number of years ago that a woman came up to me and she said, I heard you speak about 10 years ago and you got good. And I went, well, she goes, well, you were okay, but you got good. And the idea there is I mentioned to her, I said, well, I hope I did, after so many more
Yeah.
speeches, because you develop into a speaker, but you have to start speaking to be able to do that. You never arrive before you start. I should
Right.
write that down. I've never thought that before. You never arrive before you start. And
It's
so,
true.
the
Write
thing,
that down. Right.
yeah, to write it
Yeah,
down,
we'll get
my
that.
old coach used to say.
Yeah.
And but one of the things I'd like to ask all of you is there is a concept that I talk about a lot is so what to so that. So speaking is a so what, but what do you want out of it and what do you want your audience to get out of it? And we're not going to be talking too much about the audience tonight, but about you as a speaker. And so one of the things that I have looked at in my past as I designed my business is how did I want to really develop the business and who do I want to speak to. And in all of my companies that I have owned over the years, people have wanted to have the big deal. They wanted the $1 million, they wanted the big stage, they wanted, all of the more of the what I would call the ego driven. They didn't want to, deal with some of the smaller elements. And I started studying people in business, and one of them was Sam Walton. And Sam Walton, in his story in developing Walmart, he said, do I want to serve the classes and live with the masses, or serve the masses and live with the classes? And so part of this is my attitude is a stage allows me to touch more lives. Now, many of you hopefully have other product services, coaching, therapy. I know some of you have private practices. We are limited in how many people we can touch. But when we're on a stage, when we're on, like in my PBS life, it went to 157 major markets throughout the US and Canada. Over 500 million possible, double set of eyeballs. So 100 million eyeballs possible to see and those episodes live. And so the thing is that, when we do this, what it is that we really want it to have an impact for.
I think it's important to point out when Gary says getting on a stage, he isn't always talking about an actual stage where you're crawling up the stairs and getting up on that platform. A stage could be a television interview. It could be a radio station. It could be a podcast interview. You have the ability to take a stage globally now. And I think people forget that is a lot of impact there too. And there are things that we can do that we can teach you on how to navigate which of those stages, if you will, are the right ones for you to show up at to get your message across, make the most impact, and generate the most the ability to find your success, to make your profit. There are ways to do it, just little tweaks, but don't underestimate some of those podcasts or those opportunities.
Well, and this goes to the second side, not just the presentation skills that we all need to hone and craft and really develop our own style, but the element of being in the business of speaking. What is the so that for you being there? What are the opportunities? How do people get to take you home? Start implementing the good processes and thoughts and ideas that you have that will make an impact in people's lives. And this is where we're going to give you some ideas and locations, actual connections tonight on where you can start looking for opportunities. Before COVID did something really interesting. Before COVID, when we said I was on so many stages, it was always live stages. If you didn't count podcasts, you didn't count some of these other things. Today, in the industry, it's legitimate now to say if you were on a summit, if you were on a podcast, if you're on a live stage, if you're doing your own event, those are all counted now as speaking opportunities in the number of times you have spoken. And so it's an interesting change and shift that COVID actually gave us. And for some of the individuals that we have worked with, people don't like to travel. And because of the technology now that people are really used to, now this is something that is acceptable to be able to disseminate your information over all of the live streaming elements and to be able to touch even more people, particularly internationally. How many of you would like to be international speakers? It's really fun because now we're interchanging or exchanging ideas in multicultures. And when you have that, to me, it's really interesting. It's allowing me to see another viewpoint outside of my own home base. So, there's an interesting thing. The difference in Sheral, I want you to address is the concept of investing and spending.
investing and spending. When I decided to make the transition from radio and copywriting and that sort of a business into professional speaking and incorporating that into my business as a tool for extra profit, I I sat down and figured it out. I had a coach. Actually, I had two different coaches. I spent probably $60,000 in coaches, but I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. I had no idea who I was going to be serving. I had no idea what to do or how to turn anything I had into a business. And the reason that I ended up spending that much money bouncing from this place to that place to this event to that is I didn't have clarity. When you get really focused on what you want to achieve and then how to take those steps and turn it into a business plan, which is something I didn't have prior to finding the right coach. In this case, it was Gary. And really getting clear on what my message is and whom I wanted to speak to and whom I wanted to serve. That's when things started to pop. You don't have to spend a fortune in order to get the results. Once you get that clarity and you know who you want to work with, what do you want to do when you grow up? It took me that long to figure it out. And when I invested in myself, when I figured out who I wanted to serve and how I wanted to serve them, when I got that clarity, that's when I could make the investment. I could see where are the people and the events that are going to get me to that place. Who are the people that are where I want it to be, doing exactly what I want it to do. And that's when it became an investment. And I started to see the progress. I started to see the success. I started to see this avalanche, if you will, snowballing into something magnificent. Before that, I was just throwing money all over the place randomly. And I was frustrated and was going to stop everything. It's when you get clear on that message and you start thinking, okay, I'm not looking for someone to create something for me. I know what I want. I want to know how they did it. Then you start to invest in yourself and you start to see the actual results.
Well, and I think the concept here is to truly understand the difference between investing and spending. Investing, we expect a return on that investment. And so when we get into any industry, any business, there's going to be a tremendous number of opportunities to invest. But if we don't know, like what Sheral just mentioned, what we're wanting as an end result, again, the Stephen Covey start with the end in mind, is that we will end up spending a lot more money than we probably need to or should. And so, but that doesn't mean that we don't move forward, because with any investment, we do not know what the return is going to be or when the return is going to show up. That is the weird thing. I've had one individual that came to one of my events early on in another event that I do. And the first time he went out to speak, and this was at least 10 years ago, he was 20 years old and they paid him $10,000 to speak, and they bought another $10,000 worth of his books. And he thought it was going to be that way the entire career. That he shows up, he says, "Hi, here I am," and they just shower him with money. And obviously that didn't happen, and now he is selling used cars. And so the thing is that what are we wanting out of it? How are we structuring our business? One of the, another area that I find people that makes them stuck is they are afraid. There is a fear factor. Will people like me? And, the reality is not everybody will like you. I've always said I could never be a politician because half the country would hate me and some of them want to kill me. And so, there's just everybody has this idea of the glitz and the glamour. You look at movie stars and athletes, no one has 100%, you know, raving fan base. And so fear is natural, it's normal, but there's two types, and this is something that could be used by you in any area of your life, is that if that fear is just because it's something new and you know that it's the right thing to do, but it's just new fear, that's when we can have permission within ourselves to move forward. If that fear is something within us and it literally says within ourselves, don't do it, we have permission within ourselves to make that decision as well. In fact, I was working with a client this afternoon that it was literally that. They knew that it was the wrong thing to do. And if they would listen to themselves early on, they could avoid some of the things that they ended up with. But it's a learning experience. It's something that we all go through because we have been taught not to trust ourselves. So, but when we get on stage, I was asked when I was doing my TEDx talk, we went and what they call visited the stage, where they brought all the speakers in. It was at a very large auditorium. It sat over 20,000 people. And the stage itself was 400 feet clear across the floor of the arena. And so we went to visit. And on the way back out of the facility, the organizer looked at me. We were walking together, and he said, "You've done so many talks. How do you get rid of the butterflies?" And my answer was, "You don't get rid of the butterflies. You get the butterflies to fly in formation." And so to me, that nervousness, that anxiety that happens before your talks is totally normal. If I didn't have it, I would start being concerned about myself if it was more into the ego side of it rather than the serving side. And so, you know, the nerves are always here, and they're supposed to be. So
It means you're
we have
ready.
pardon?
It means you're ready.
Yeah, it
I
means
don't
you're
think
ready.
I don't think there's a time that you and I speak that we aren't still nervous.
No,
Every single time. I spent 20 years turning on a microphone Monday through Friday, speaking to about 500,000 people every single day. And every time I turned on that microphone, I was nervous. Every time I get on stage, just before I get on, I feel it. I feel the nerves. I get off that stage, and in this case, Bonnie, who's here tonight, saw me at an event. I got off the stage. She looked at me. I was holding a glass of water, and the water was almost coming out of the glass. It's every single time, but it means I'm ready.
so would you like to introduce someone?
I would, as a matter of fact, somebody who overcame that fear and brought it, got himself organized. And I'm just in a few weeks, I am watching such an amazing transformation take place with Delton Cooper. Delton, would you go ahead and unmic and share a little bit about your experience in taking the stage?
Um, it was terrifying at first, to be honest. I was very, very nervous about the whole process. And it simply comes from a place of being an introvert, where where I was kind of in a position where I was always wanting to be small and quiet. And this really brought me out of my shell. It made me face my fears. It made me realize the the bad self-talk that I had. That was the biggest thing that I realized, was that it was all in my head. It was just stuff I was telling myself, about what if I mess up, what if I screw up, what if I say the wrong words, what if I fall going up the steps, all that's going through my mind, and none of that happened. None of that happened. So it's just a matter of, and I after I went to through the course, I came up with a saying that you have to step in fear in order to build up enough momentum to take that leap of faith. Sometimes you just have to just do it scared. You just have to be scared. I mean, that's the only way it's going to get done, is just deal with the fear. And it goes back to what they were just saying. When you know your purpose and you know your mission, it gives you that extra kick in the butt to get up there and try it and just overcome your own fears, because you realize it's not about you. You have a message to deliver that can help people, thousands, if not millions of people. Quit being scared. Get up there and talk. And that's kind of the self-talk I had. So, and I don't know if anybody ever get a chance to see it, but when I did my talk on stage, you can actually see at the end of it, I take a deep breath because because I finally got through it and all those nerves released. I mean, it's truly noticeable. I think I'm going to edit that out, but it's totally noticeable at the end of it where I take the deep breath, like, and release. But just step in fear. Just get out there and do it. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get your message out there, is to just do it.
Well, I have always said I don't like the feeling of the adrenaline beforehand, but I sure like the adrenaline release at the back. And yeah, it's another one is just completed. And so I think one of the things that has that creates fear is, you were talking, Delton, about the story that you told before you got there, the story before the story, before it actually had any kind of reality put to it. And it's connected to the imposter syndrome. And I think almost everyone deals with that. Again, people have asked me, how long did it take me to get past the imposter syndrome? And my answer always is, I will let you know when it happens. It's just something that is natural, normal out there. And when we get into the real honest side of it, is what we see as ordinary, other people see as extraordinary. Now, I've got a challenge for all of you and everyone that's watching on Facebook, and whether it's the replay but I would like you to do something for me around this. I would, in the next 24 to 48 hours, I would love to see you take out a piece of paper and write down all of the things you have done in your life. And when I say all of the things that you have done in your life, I mean all of the things that you have done in your life. Did you win a spelling bee? Were you the champion tetherball, person in elementary? I don't care what it is.
Go all the way back.
Capture that. Go all the way back. I remember, back in my financial planning days, is that we would do golf tournaments, and I hadn't been, athletic for a number of years, and they would say, well, we can see you were an athlete. And I go, well, I don't know what told you that, but I played football in school. And so there's just things, and I discounted that. And there's things that I did along those lines that I just said, well, it was ordinary. Everybody does that. There was no big deal. But I will guess, I could almost guarantee that each of you, when you do this exercise, you will come up with something you haven't thought about for years. You will have put it back into a closet. You put it lock on the door and went, nope, that's something that I did last, 25 years ago. And here's something else to realize around this exercise. If you were to talk to Buzz Aldrin or some of the early astronauts in their latter years, were they still astronauts? The answer is yes. They were always, you look at, our president, Jimmy Carter, at the end of his life, was he still President Carter? Yes. And so it's honoring what we have done, where we have come from, what we have transitioned through, gives us that credibility, and it really helps us to understand that we have value, and our sense of credibility actually comes from what we have brought through those years to that audience. And we don't need an external validation, stamp of approval to have that stage. Because here's the reality, is that anytime you're given a stage or an opportunity to be on that stage, you were given that opportunity. It's yours to accept or to reject. And there was a reason that you were given that stage. There is somebody in that audience that something you will say is supposed to be said and heard in that audience. And when we really connect to that, it gives us permission to step out onto a stage without a safety net, because things will go wrong. We will say things. I mean,
My,
Delton,
yes.
you
Oh
know, I
my,
say
yes.
things at times that are not supposed to be said. You know, it's just like, I don't know. But the thing is that when people, you come off that stage and people will say to you, you said this, and you may not even remember saying it, but you said this, and it changed my life today. Thank you for coming. So it's not about us. It's you each are the subject, but not the message. So, you know, it's taking that steps into the unknown. And that's what actually keeps me going, because every stage is different. Every organization is different. And when we do that, then we have that ability to stay engaged, stay interested. If we get to a point where we just go on and just regurgitate a pattern line at times, we will not have the same impact. But when we take every audience as a different audience, whether it be in person or virtual, then it really becomes exciting about the impact that that can have.
And that's, you talk about taking that step into the unknown, Gary. And when you think about it, if you don't take that step into the unknown, if you just stay in that little space, that comfortable space, and you never move from it. You will not, you'll not get ahead. You'll not keep pace with the rest of the pack. You get left behind until you take that step into the unknown. And it goes back to the fear. You might be afraid to, but if you just stay in that little comfortable bubble, it's something that I think I've said before, Gary, that I think oftentimes people say they're in the pursuit of happiness. What they're actually in is the pursuit of comfort. But comfort keeps you where you are or gets you left behind. It's when you're pursuing happiness that in order to get that happiness, you have to take that step into the unknown. Because I mean, think about it. How many of you see a lot of people, they're comfortable in their own little space, but they're miserable as all get out?
Yeah.
It's not the pursuit of comfort. It's the pursuit of happiness. And the only way to get there is to take that step into the unknown.
Well, each of you, we all have a seat at the table. But if we don't take that seat, it's just going to stay empty. One of the books that I'd recommend all of you checking out, and some of you probably already have, is the book called Good to Great. And it talks about getting a seat on the bus. Now, this is one of those areas as you step out and really start doing the things that are uncomfortable, you will have people around you that will start really haranguing on you. I have had people tell me I left them. And my response is, I did not leave you. You did not choose to come with me. And so when we start, that there's that old adage, stepping out to the beat of your drum, your own pattern. This is where we have to have the internal fortitude to say, I'm on a mission, instead of I'm wanting to be conforming to what everybody else thinks I should do. And most of those people are the ones that are not doing anything. They have chosen to wait. And so let's go through the 3 steps of success in each of these areas. We've got some specific things for you to think about. Is the first step is to be seen. If you're the best kept secret, it doesn't do anyone any good. But how do we do that? And I think one of the biggest things, all of you know, one of my biggest encouragements for everyone is to write a book, is to do something in your books. People want to take you home with them. And it's not just about being in the business of writing a book to where you have revenue coming in, but people want to know your story. And the book that I want to encourage you to do first is your process. your journey. How did you get to where you are? There has never been a single thing that I've done more credible and expanding in my practice than writing a book. It wasn't speaking internationally, it wasn't having coaching clients internationally, it wasn't building my businesses, all the things. I mean, the things that are in my bio, my intro, selling over $300 million of projects and services individually. That all of that, once I wrote the book, that opened up PBS, that opened up all the major networks. TEDx called me to do TEDx because of the book. And so the book that, it's small, 130 pages or less. And by the way, your cover counts for 4 pages. Just so you
It
know that
actually
the
does.
cheating here, it really is crazy. But you want a book big enough to where you can have a spine. But that book gives you somehow it's instant credibility with meeting planners, media people. It's just across the board that now you're an author. I know Sheral has found that with hers.
Absolutely. When I wrote The Frog in Your Throat, it was an uncomfortable process for me, but I also remembered that when I was doing radio or television and interviewing people, one of the things I wanted to know first off was, do you have a book that we can talk about? And sure enough, this book here, it gets me on the other side of the microphone. Rather than being the host, I am now speaking to on podcasts, on radio programs. There are television programs, and the reason that I'm there is because of that little book, and it's a grand total of, oh gosh, what is it? About 150 pages. That's it. It starts conversations on airplanes. It starts conversations in various places. People that wouldn't have known I existed until they looked at that book and went, I want to know more about you. And then it turns into an opportunity. You use that as a tool within your business to, you can use it to generate leads. You can use it for various revenue sources, not just from selling the book, but it gets you seen. And that's the first secret here, is being seen.
And you're able to leverage that book in the elevate and separate from. If you're in competition with another speaker, there's ways of using that book to elevate your opportunity to be on that stage rather than someone else. And I want to really share with you, I'll tell on myself, I hate writing. I truly despise writing because of my diagnosis. I have no feelings in my hands. I never learned how to type, so I've spoken all of my books. I'm now credited with 10 books. And I'm going, that's crazy. I don't even like writing. But I would suggest, if you have any resistance to writing a book, is to speak the book. You're going to keep your what's called your voice, what sounds like you inside the book. But here's the secret. For me, how I've written my books is I will take and write down 1 through 9 on a piece of paper. Then I'll look at the timeline, particularly when I'm looking at the space of time that I'm wanting to share in my life, and then I'll break down those elements into those chapters. And then I'll go back to each of those chapters, and I don't have to do it in order. Where people get stuck is where they start with chapter 1 and figure they have to write all the way through to chapter 9. So by doing it this way, each of those chapters becomes a book that you combine into a larger element book later on. But if you're in tune with something that happened when you were a teenager or when you were playing sports or whatever, go ahead and tell that story and then put it together. I had my cover of my book that was done for over 2 years, and my coach at the time got so mad, told me to go home, and I was mad. So I wrote it, actually spoke it in less than 6 days. And because it's your story, you guys know your story. Put it
It's
down
you.
on a piece of paper. Don't even worry about punctuation. That's what editors are for.
That's what
They're
proofreaders and
they're
editors
they're
do.
they're
Absolutely.
there to make me look better than I am, because I don't know where to put periods and commas and colons. Anyway, I mess it up. But the whole idea is my job is to put down the story, to be able to convey a message. And so writing that book is really something that for everyone, whether or not you're even in, I've had plumbers and contractors write their books for their practice, and it has worked there as well. Social media, how many of you are using social media? When social media goes down, do we panic? Yes. It's like the world closed, right? It's like, what happened?
That was the first thing this morning.
Yeah,
Can't get on. I
everybody
can't
thought
get on.
everybody thought they were individually hacked, and it was just like, oh golly. But the thing is that social media is really powerful because where do your people live, hang out, take in information? But it's how to disseminate that in a way, because speaking, doing a Facebook Live, doing what we're doing, and all you guys on Facebook, hi again. Uh, this is actually speaking because we're broadcasting this in a way for people to see it now and even later. And so this is again, how can we be seen? Networking. I mean, most of us are connected with networking, but networking to me is sitting next to me on an airplane because I want to know your story. I want to know your background. I've had people where I've started talking to them and they'll tell me all their stories. I had one instance where it really came back to the book again, where they asked me if, when I said I was a speaker, business coach, and author, they said, well, are you famous? And I really wanted to discount that. And they said, well, what came out of me was some people think so. And then they pulled out a camera, took my picture just in case I was going to be famous. And then they wanted me to autograph my business card because I had run out of books. And so the networking is just connection, it's building relationships. Instead of press hard 3 copies, slamming down your card, Sheral has a particular phrase for this. What is it called?
You are pitch slapping. Pitch slapping isn't just when you're slipping into somebody's DMs the second you connect with them, and then you basically throw up all over them what you sell to them. You're looking at the person as a transaction. You're not looking at them as a human. And it's the same thing when you go to a networking event. You've seen some of those speed networking events and those, or you walk into a room and here comes that one guy. And you always know the one that comes rushing in at the last minute and is all, I'm so important. I'm so busy. Okay. Here I am. This is what I do. I'm da, da, da. Puts the business card in your hand. And as you get ready to introduce yourself, I don't have time. I'm sorry. I don't have time. I gotta go ahead. I gotta get more of these business cards. They don't care. Their only thing there is they're going to run in circles, handing out. Their goal is to get 100 business cards into people's hands. When that person walks away from you and you're looking at that business card, what do you typically do with it? If you're like me, it goes into bin 13. I 86 that sucker right there because if they don't want to connect with me, why would I want to connect with them? They've pitch slapped me. And we spend a lot of time discussing how best to approach people and not become a pitch slapper of sorts. There are ways to do this, but it comes down to that connection, building that relationship. Speak to one person. That's going to make a difference.
One of the things that we have to get used to is asking for the opportunities. That if we don't show ourselves, a lot of times people don't know we're there. Another book I would like to recommend is called The Aladdin Factor. It's written by Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield. And the whole premise of the book is ASK to GET. And so when we're doing this in media interview podcasts, is reaching out and saying, hey, I'd be a great guest. Here's a message. Would you like to see how we could support each other? Is asking. And one of the other resources that I'd like to give you tonight is a free resource on Facebook, and it's Podcast Guest Connection. It's a resource for podcast guesting. And last week, out of that resource, I was on a show that was a Canadian host living in the Philippines, and they have lived most of their lives in Asia. And as it turned out, he does all of the back end marketing for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and he was apologizing to me that he only had a 16,000 vetted email list. And I'm going, okay, sorry, yeah, it was one of them, but it came from that free resource that I reached out and said, hey, would I be a good fit for your program? So podcasts is one of the easiest ways for you guys all to get started tomorrow. Right now, get your message out there and start getting those connections that way. The second thing is to be in the
The
second
three secrets.
secret is to be safe. No agenda. When I'm on a podcast or on stage, I truly have no agenda. There's no sales hook at the end. In fact, when I was on this show last week, I asked, and this is something you need to do, is ask your uh, media person, your event planner, whatever, what can you offer the audience? Because there are different rules on every stage. Um, but I said, could I give away something for free? And he said, well, of course. And I said, I have a little link. It's called Free Gift from Gary. And you could go out and get a free gift from your name. It could be the free gift, a free gift, but people can remember that. Most of the time when we're on a program, we want to give this big old giant URL that nobody remembers, and they may be driving in their car, they may be working out, they may be listening to it at work, multitasking, and so they're going to miss it. So the free gift from Gary. What was interesting about it, he goes, that's brilliant. I have never heard of that before. Can I steal that and use it in my own business? I go, yeah. Yeah, but so it's some of those little things that we can do to have more of an opportunity for that reflection back. Sheral talked about it, to becoming that people magnet, to be that safe individual, that we have that. And what she was talking about, the pitch slapping 80-20 rule, is to give away, not to just be, selling, selling, selling. And by the way, I would recommend eliminating the word sell and replacing it with the word share. We love sharing. People don't like being sold to, but people like buying. And so the third thing is to be relevant. Is, do we have something that people want? Most of us know that the products or service we have, people need. But if they also don't desire it, then we're working backwards. It's not starting with the end in mind. It's looking at what people are wanting and how are they wanting it delivered to them? How do they want to, use it in their lives? And then now we're going to be able to know how to build some of the ancillary type of things in your speaking business, whether it be a course, whether it be some sort of coaching, group coaching, masterminds, whatever it might be. But we want to really listen. And by the way, speaking is more about listening than it is about talking. It truly is, because you'll get into situations that you'll all of a sudden understand that something that you said or how you're saying it doesn't fit, and we get to adjust on the fly. But it's a conversation. The conversation is really around what it is that we want to convey in a connection with the person that has allowed us to be on that stage. I'm taking a breath.
Are you? I think you need to. So no, it goes back to the, how do people want to digest it? And if you actually take the time to listen, actively listen, instead of, just giving a directive, when you have that conversation, you will learn so quickly what people actually want from you. You don't have to tell them what they need. Find out what they want. They will tell you. and you can fine tune your messaging in order to deliver what you've got in such a way where they go, where have you been? That's what I want. How did you know I wanted that? Because you listened. They told you. They told
And
you.
here are two words I would like to have you write down as well. And everything that you put out in a proposal is the words are customize and tailor make. Customize and tailor make. In other words, the people that you're going to be speaking on their stages, it's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. In fact, some of us know one of my former clients has a weight loss program, and she named it One Size Fits None.
None.
And I love that because that's true. People want customization. They want something that truly fits for them, their audience. And when we do this, we will get asked back because that happened to me. I did some things that we don't have time to tell the story. When I was on PBS the first time, I did something that was so out of the ordinary that 5 years later, she saw my ninth book come out and she invited me back onto PBS. That I don't know very many people that have that kind of story, but it's because of the customization and really listening to the needs, the wants, the desires of the client, and then ultimately the audience. So, really quickly, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. We started a couple of minutes late, but let's go through, what it looks like, what we do in 3 days. And also remember, we're going to be giving you a free gift at the end. So do you want to go through some of the areas, Sheral?
Absolutely. Uh, it's a lot jammed into 3 days that we do with our attendees. We help you craft your professional speaking persona. A lot of times we're good at talking, but we don't exactly know the best way to present ourselves. We help you with that. We assist you in crafting your signature opening. You think about, when are you the most nervous? It's in the very beginning, isn't it? We help you set that up so that you know exactly where you're going to get those butterflies into formation. Um, I think the most important part, at least this is my opinion on this, I think the most important thing is actually teaching you the business of speaking, how to turn that into a business tool, how you can set your speaker fees so that you never truly speak for free ever again. We give you the contracts so that you know how to set that up and best take care of yourself. We present you with the tools for negotiation, the right way to handle, how to get what you need out of the situation for your business, and teach you how to protect your intellectual property rights so that you don't do one thing and then suddenly it is out for the masses and you're not being rewarded for what you've given to that audience. You want to take some more of it, Gary?
Yeah, one of the things that will elevate and separate you from a lot of other speakers is being the easiest speaker that meeting planner has ever worked with. When I go in, I usually go in a day before. I am there throughout the program. But if they need me to rearrange chairs, if they need me to give suggestion, help them out in any way, I'm there. I'm there to support them. And that is not normal. People, I know there was an event where I spoke at, it was actually in Dallas, Julie, the organization. And the very last keynote speaker was supposed to come in on day 2. They didn't come in until day 3, 10 minutes before they were to go on the stage. And it was so late that the organizer came to me and said, Gary, do you have another talk that you could give as the keynote ending speaker? And I said, yes. The person, kind of bounced in, did his thing, sold his books, and said, by the way, I need to get home for my kid's baseball game, and left. And then they said, never again. This is not how you build relationships. I want to be that easiest speaker. And so this is how you get asked back, how you get referrals. Because one of the things that it may seem like it's a very large industry, but everybody knows everybody. That is something that when you really start getting in, I had one person tell me, I've heard about you for years. And my response was, well, what took you so long to reach out? You know, it was just like, you know, you get to be that human being with people instead of the prima donna. And, you know, the maximizing the opportunities. And this is and we teach you how to ask the questions going into the event of what the opportunities are. And it's reflecting back what Sheral had said. It's not, you're never going to speak for free again, but there's a lot of different ways to be paid. And one of those is referrals to other stages. In fact, I was speaking on a free stage, technically, in LA when a PR director out of Washington, D.C. heard me and took me to PBS. That's how PBS happened. And so I consider every stage I'm showcasing. I don't know who's in the audience. And I don't do it to, you know, I'm me, but I don't know where the opportunities are in the audience themselves. Using social media, becoming that effective. This is so important.
Yeah.
Becoming a storyteller. Storytelling today is the number one thing that people want to hire you for. If you're not a storyteller, people will see you as being boring. And on top of that, I was speaking with someone today about being humorous. And they said, well, I'm not funny. I go, you don't have to be funny, but you have to be able to tell stories that are humorous. One of the things that I would suggest around this, if you have any, you know, question about how to do humor in speaking, is go out on YouTube and start looking at the today's comedians. So when you look at Fluffy, when you look at all of the great comedians today, all they're doing is telling stories on themselves. That's all they're doing. And for those of you that have heard me speak, I tell stories on myself all the time. But the thing
It's
is,
how
it's not.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
it's how I ended up with 3 number 1 morning shows. I beat Steve Harvey by double digits in an urban market. How? Because I knew how to tell a story. And you tell about your own personal experiences. You tell about life. Life is truly funnier than anything you can make up if you know how to tell it the right way. And that's one of the things that Gary and I work with you in the 3 days at boot camp is we teach you how to just tweak it just that little bit. So you go from run of the mill to you've got to be kidding. And it's relatable. That's how you connect.
And the connection to that is you can write this down. People forget facts, they remember stories. People forget facts, they remember stories. And for most of us, we have a challenge remembering names. Why? Because it's a fact. We remember a name when it's connected to a story. And so we show you how to start taking the things around you. People know me as the beaver guy. Well, that's a story that evolved out of what I'm doing and how I'm sharing. And now it has become part of my persona. Personas are developed, they're not created. So you don't get a persona and then launch it. You are actually creating your story, allowing it to happen, and then listening to that audience. How to dress, how to connect with an audience in seconds. And this is Cheryl's area, how to do a professional interview. Uh, there's you can blow it in the first 2 seconds in a media interview. And I've had people get blackballed, but Sheral is so good at this because this is what she used to do in live
Used
radio.
to.
In
Used to. I'm still doing it on
okay,
2 different podcasts.
did not let me finish in live radio.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do this on stage, by the way. Some of you have been
We
to our
banter.
events, and yeah, we banter back and forth. One of the things that is I gotta stop saying one of these things because I got like 15 now that I've said one of these things. Um, is you need certain tools to be seen as a professional speaker. One of them is professional headshots. and to be able to showcase you in a number of different ways for meeting planners to see how they can place you in the right place that they're wanting you, whether it be on a breakout session, whether it be on the the main stage, whatever it might be, or even in the interview. And along with that is your sizzle reels and the videos that you need. A unique thing that we do is you're on stage at least 3 times at the event. We keep the
Absolutely.
event small. It maxes out at 14 people. And because of that, each person is allowed time on stage, which really freaked out Delton. When he found out that he was going to be on stage, he almost didn't come in from Kansas City. And
Yeah.
I think his car was going to have, car problems or something. But the thing is that you can learn headspace. I believe it was Jim Rohn, my first mentor. He said you can never learn how to swim without getting wet. And so it's a very comforting room. It's a very supportive room, but we want you on that stage. And on the third day, we actually film you. So you get the raw materials to start your what's called a sizzle reel and a demo reel. We give you those tools.
They're not just, it's not just the videotape either. It's multi-camera angles so that you look even more professional and polished. It's again one of those elevate and separate things that we do.
A couple of other tools that we give you, we work with you on your one sheet. That's what meeting planners want to see. And also we give you 3 months of a subscription to a company called Speakertunity. And that's an organization that culls is that the right word? They
They call
put
it.
together a list
They
of
assemble.
opportunities for you to be able to reach out to see if you're the right fit for that opportunity. We also feed you all 3 days. So,
Mhm.
and we customize to your dietary needs for that. And then the 14. There's other things that we do at the event as well. It's very hands-on, and it's really designed that, again, I think we mentioned it at the very beginning, that no matter if you're doing one-on-one, small groups, trainings, whatever size of audience, this is an event that prepares you for all of that. Because as a professional speaker, you're actually going to have opportunities to do all those things.
One of the attendees, every time that we host this, what we always give one of the attendees the ability to speak on a national stage. We'll have another opportunity coming up for an attendee to speak on the Breakthrough Business Mastery national stage in September. And it's not something that Gary and I pick. It's picked by your peers. We don't go in with an agenda. We watch the transformations happen. And one individual, every time we host these boot camps, gets that opportunity to be on a national stage.
Yeah, the very first time I did the boot camp, I picked and I went, that's never going to happen again. It is above my pay grade. And so the room gets to pick. And it's really neat to see the camaraderie that happens in each and every group. And it's very humbling to see that. And there's more bonuses that we give you. There's always surprises that we do. The investment to come to the event is, I went brain dead, $29.97. If it's, I totally went, well, see, one of the things that is happening is this is the last time that the event will be at this price point. It's going up because of the investment of what it costs to put the event on. It has just skyrocketed. And so that's where Sheral and I, the last day or so, have been working around numbers. But so this one is $29.97. You can go to Speaker Mastery Boot or breakthroughspeakermastery.com, and the information is there. But
I'll put it in
it's something that as
the chat.
we have been looking around at different organizations doing events, and they're ranging from $5,000 to $20,000, and
And you don't
most
take
of
the
them,
stage.
and you have no stages. You on some of them you'll get some video. I don't believe any of them do headshots, but it really doesn't. It's not that we're better than. It's just a difference in
We're
what
different.
we really wanted to be able to give each participant and to be able to launch or enhance their speaking career. If you are already a speaker, this is also some, we have very seasoned speakers and we have brand new speakers coming on board. So it's something that um, it's just a lot of fun to see the growth and then what people are actually doing after they launch their career.
Keep talking. I've got a little tickle in the
Oh, I
throat.
was
Hold
going
on
to say,
a second.
now my silence and your silence was so. We promised you a free gift, and do apologize for going over a few minutes. Do you
Let
have
me,
the free?
yep, I'm grabbing it right now. Hang on 1 second here.
One
Let me
one
see
of
if I
the
can.
things that is really important is when you get to a speaking event, what do you take? And we call it the speaker get bag. You know, the all the things that you wish you had thought of before you got there. And it's a downloadable. So all you just go to this link that Cheryl's going to give you, and
Yep, it's in the
it will
chat
give
right
you
now.
the PDF. Oh, it's in the chat.
It is in the
Um,
chat.
it needs to go on the Facebook thread.
I
So
will be posting it on Facebook and all the whole thing. I'll make sure it's taken care of.
so so guys, thank you so much for being with us this evening. Do you have any questions? If not, thank
What a
you.
great group.
Yeah, reach out to us if you have any questions. Would love and some of you we have alumni here in the group tonight, and it's really fun to see what you guys are doing and, you know, the impact that you're having. So, Sheral, any last words?
I think I just want to say again, thank you for taking the time. Your time is very valuable. And thank you for sharing it with us. It's obvious you want to invest in yourself. And Gary and I are excited to be able to share at least a few things here with you, even if we never talk to you again, which I don't believe that's going to be the case. We want you to be able to take something away and be able to use it, something tangible. Get your voice out there, be seen, be heard.
So, you know, and the thing that we did not say, the next event is in Dallas. Julie has been spearheading us coming down there. It's April 4, 5, and 6. And so that is the next event that's on the calendar. So, real
Yeah.
quick, Delton and Julie, Delton, any last thoughts?
Um, definitely do it.
There you go. Short and sweet.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
I
Julie,
can't
you'll have
wait
the
to,
last word.
yeah, I cannot wait to see you here in Dallas. It's been transformational in my life, and I cannot wait to meet all of you and see you here and see you transform your life as well.
So, with that, thank each and every one of you. Thank you for being here on Facebook. And again, if you have any questions at all, Sheral, put your email or your email in the chat. Mine is Gary at GaryBarnesInternational.com. And we will see you soon.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.